The views and opinions expressed in this broadcast do not necessarily reflect or represent the views and opinions of WBGR Network.
Happy Friday and welcome to the Wanda's Warriors radio show. I'm glad that you could join me on today, which is the last Friday in November. I can't believe that the year has gone by so far. I just want to thank God for giving me this platform and this opportunity to bring others on so they can share their own experiences. And so today is another author spotlight. And I'm going to read her bio, and then you will see who my special guest is today. Her name is Dena Newman, and she moved to Prince George's County from Southern Maryland to pursue her education and marketing goals. Newman is the proud mother of a 28-year-old son, Rashad. She enjoys teaching, marketing, and volunteering in her community. Newman graduated from Bowie State University with a bachelor's degree in business administration with a concentration in marketing and an MBA degree from Strayer University. Currently, she is a professor and has served as an associate dean, LRC manager, and student support manager at the Prince George's campus. Newman recently moved to Atlanta, Georgia, and has continued to teach at the Lithonia campus and pursuing other entrepreneur endeavors as she now makes Atlanta her home. In 2017, Newman received an award from the Department of Education Women's History Month program titled Honoring Trailblazing Women in Labor and Business. This was a great experience to be a part of, and she looks forward to supporting more opportunities to empower women. Prior to her transition in academia, she held positions as a volunteer director for the Metropolitan Police Boys and Girls Clubs and the owner of a marketing company for over 10 years. During her marketing career, she focused on strategic marketing plans, marketing directing, marketing seminars, promotions, public relations, and as a freelance writer for Say So magazine and Gospel Choice View. Newman's expertise and passion will always be marketing, consulting, and education. Her signature events that she is most proud and supported are Safeway National Capital Barbecue Battle, Kunta Kinte Festival, the International Roots Festival, Parents Speak Up National Campaign, and the Juneteenth Festival. All of her hard work captured the attention of an African journalist who interviewed her for a local paper in Gambia, West Africa. Wow, that's amazing. Shortly after that interview, Newman was extended an invitation by the Minister of Tourism of Gambia to promote the International Roots Festival hosted in West Africa. Newman traveled for 2 weeks as a VIP media correspondent in Gambia and Senegal, West Africa. As a marketing consultant, Newman has interviewed A-list celebrities in the gospel and R&B music industry, actors, and international artists. Newman has a very diverse client list and memorable experiences over the last 20 years of her professional career. She has published several articles and has published her first book this year on Amazon titled We Cared for Each Other, How Dementia and Parkinson Disease Took My Mom's Life and Changed Mine Forever by Dena Nicole. One of the most rewarding business adventures that Newman is seeking is to create a nonprofit organization for the elderly slated for next year called Alpha and Omega Senior Center. Her philosophy in life is to study hard, remember to dream, love unconditionally, and put God first in your life and watch it prosper. Will you please help me to welcome Miss Dena Newman as my special guest today? Good morning. Thank you for coming on the show. You did all of that. You got to go
Oh
on.
my God.
You've accomplished a lot.
And it doesn't even mean I'm old. It just means I accomplished some things.
Yeah, God just he opened some doors and some avenues for you at a young age. So your book, I have my copy of your book, and I tell you, in reading this book, it's like things you just never think of. You know, my mom is 70, my dad is 71, and they get around. They have all of us. Mom has had several health issues, but we've never talked about caregiving. We've never had that conversation. So how does that conversation come about when you're dealing with a parent? How do you, if you have other siblings, how do you sit down and be like, look, this needs to happen?
Right. Well, of course, it didn't happen for my family as well. It's something that took place, and we just had to jump in. Because I think I was always the entrepreneur one, not really doing the 9 to 5. It was more easier for me to have the place to say, okay, let mom come and stay with me. And I was the youngest. So yes, I was the baby girl. So I think that's how that transpired. I had no idea that it was going to become the journey that it became.
Yeah, that's a lot on you because it's like you have to give up your entire life.
I gave up my entire
whatever your
life.
goals were, whatever your social life was, it no longer exists.
No longer. So the key, I think, a lot of times when parents are in this, like between 65 and 75, and they still are very active, regardless of the health situation, they don't want to give up their independence.
True.
So it's a very gentle way that you have to say, Mom, Dad, let's have this conversation. Thanksgiving would have been perfect because everybody's happy.
Yeah, everybody's there. Yeah.
In the book, I think I mentioned even Mom love an eating party, and that's bringing family members together. So that's a good time. Christmas is coming. Not only should you purchase the book, but
that conversation needs to happen at Christmas.
Have that conversation.
Yeah. We all need, and it's like, who's going to be responsible? And you're the baby girl, so a lot of times it usually falls on the oldest child.
Unfortunately, my the eldest is deceased, and he probably would have been the one, and it probably would have been him and I, because we were already doing that prior to his departure. So it fell on me. It has a lot to do with, I think, the quality time that you spend with your parents. If you're actually already older, it helps because you're in that mindset. For me, I still had a lot going on because I also had a son.
Yeah, so it's like
I was young.
You have a son that's young. You're thrown into being a caregiver without any, I always say SOP, standard operating procedures. There's no booklet. Here, this is what you're supposed to do, because every person is different. If they have dementia and Parkinson's disease. So for those who may not know what dementia and Parkinson's disease is, can you let the viewers know what it is and what signs to look for?
Well, okay. In the beginning, Mom was diagnosed with dementia, and that was because I knew something was wrong. She would forget things that just happened hours ago.
Wow.
Or forget maybe taking medications. I saw a couple of times she burnt food on the stove. So there were some things that I knew, but I still couldn't identify that this is exactly dementia. I wasn't sure. So as we went to the doctor's appointments, I would share some of these things, and we would talk about them. So it took a period of months before the diagnosis. And then, of course, memory loss with dementia. She was not combative a lot, but as it progressed, she became combative. She was scared to stay by herself for even short time frames. I was still working. I remember I was only working part-time because I was actually pursuing my master's. And I was 10 minutes away from home. I would call 2 or 3 times. I had my neighbor watching out.
Wow.
I was gone maybe 4 to 5 hours a day, a couple of days a week.
Wow.
So, I was just noticing a lot of different things. Now, as far as the Parkinson disease, I was only familiar with Muhammad Ali.
Like most of us
Like
are.
most of us. And Michael J. Fox, the actor.
Oh, yes. And he was young.
And he was very young.
He was very young.
Very young. But as she started to develop, she was falling a lot and not telling me. And the first sign I saw was a picture that was like, I said, Mom, did someone come over? And she was like, no. And just like a child, you can read the expression on someone's face.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, the picture is crooked on the wall. Or I noticed a couple of things, so I went and sat down. I said, Mom, what happened? Did you fall? Then she confessed, yes, I fell. And that time she was walking with a cane.
Okay.
So I was like, Mom, oh God. Then I realized, I have to find someone. She cannot be here by herself.
Yeah, because she may fall
Right.
and not be able to get up, and you don't know.
Exactly.
The severity of it.
Mm-hmm. So the Parkinson's disease is a control of the muscles. And I'm not a doctor, I'm not a nurse, but I feel like I was almost a nurse.
You was a caregiver for years.
I had to learn everything, but it's a muscle controlled form in your body where it closes up. It starts to close up. So swallowing becomes a problem, choking becomes a problem, walking becomes a problem. Being able to do the daily routines for yourself physically becomes a problem.
Yeah, you're trying to bathe and all of
Bathing,
that. Bathing,
eating, walking, drinking, turning. The worst, saddest thing for me was to see my mom not able to turn left and right.
Because those are your
yes,
muscles.
those are your muscles. Shoulders, posture, a lot of times, we can relax ourselves if we have a pain in our neck, a pain in our back, we can stretch, bend, and these things, as years went on, she was not able to do.
Now, how does a doctor make the diagnosis of dementia versus Alzheimer's? What is the difference?
Again, there's so many different types of dementia. Alzheimer's is the most popular one, so everyone knows about Alzheimer's. That's why we have we're in the last day. Is today's 29th or 30th?
Today's the 29th. It's November, National Alzheimer's Month.
Yes, National Alzheimer's Month. I walked this month in honor of my mom in Atlanta. And so this is the very end of Alzheimer's, and it's the most popular one. You just recently we discovered B. Smith and her husband and his girlfriend.
That was an interesting scenario.
That was very interesting. I could still feel the pain. I know everybody say, no, he's just. I could still feel some of the pain. I'm not saying you have to agree with anything that a person does, but until you in that person's situation, you know, and every person's situation is different. So
because no one is prepared to be a caregiver.
Exactly.
So how did that affect you? As I love my mom, I want to be there for my mom, but I also have a young son, I have a job, I'm trying to pursue my master's degree. How did that affect you emotionally, mentally, spiritually?
It has a phenomenal effect. And I did a lot of praying. In the book, I'm praying almost every chapter. I journal
without ceasing.
No, let me just tell you, this book is a process of me deciding to journal. As a professor, I do a lot of reading and writing. So it wasn't hard for me to journal, to write down my thoughts. I'm very transparent. Because if I don't tell my truth, it's not going to help
someone else.
It is not going to help the other person. This book is no longer. I prayed after the book was completed. I prayed, and God said to me, "This book is not for you. It's for the world."
Yes.
because it doesn't have a race. Caregiving,
No.
you don't know when. Just like if someone passed, God comes and take that person. So you don't know all the time that this person is going to be ill.
Yeah, caregiving has no race attached to it,
no political
socioeconomic status, nothing.
Nothing.
You just kind of like thrown into it, and
exactly.
You don't hear much about it. You don't really see any seminars.
They do have. They have these things in place. Unfortunately, you don't know about them. You're not aware until it happens. And then you're seeking, you're looking, there's Office on Aging. As a marketing person, I'm really good with finding out information when I need it. So there is Office on Aging. Every state has an Office on Aging. Every state has a social services.
Yes.
Not that it's going to give you all the answers. No. But it will give you some resources. And you have to use your own common sense. You have to use your spiritual sense and the resources that are available, that exist. Nothing is in one place.
And that can be frustrating within itself, because you're like, I need this knowledge. I need to care for whether it's your mom or your dad.
Right.
But then you're not getting the information, and you're like, ugh.
Like... I was a lot. It was a lot of crying times, honey. A lot of crying times. Myself, it was times when I was like, Lord, I feel like I'm about to have a nervous breakdown. I didn't even know what a nervous breakdown felt like, but I think I was close. I know my body wasn't.
But your body gets thrown out of whack, and then you're the child per se, having to take care of a parent.
Right, so I become the mother, she becomes the child.
Yeah, which I love. If y'all can see the cover of her book.
Yes.
And the top picture is the little girl and her mother, and she's giving her the flowers. And then the bottom picture is the mother on a cane with an adult child.
Right.
It's giving her the flowers.
The way
I love this.
Right. I came up with the title. Actually, this wasn't the original title, but this is the title that God gave me. And those of you who may not be a believer or are a believer, you have dreams. And in those dreams can manifest some wonderful, wonderful opportunities for you. And so I woke up and I wrote it down. Oh, we cared for each other. I shared it with one of my girlfriends. I said, I came up with the perfect dream. God gave me the perfect dream. And she was like, what is that? And I told her, she said, oh my gosh. She said, Dena, that is so, so well. And then the picture, probably a year ago, I was on Facebook and I saw an illustration pop up, because at that time I was looking for, the right pictures. I was looking for the right publishers. You're just seeking. I'm seeking knowledge. And I saw a picture of a young guy with two parents that were elderly. And I said, oh, my God, there it is, that concept. So I know I wanted to make the changes to my concept and just add my mom and myself.
I love it.
Yes.
I love it. Now, being a caregiver can cause a lot of financial stress. And you talk about it in your book. Can you be transparent about
and candid? Yes, ma'am.
And let the viewers know, because this is something eventually we're all going to have to end up doing this.
I would say now, wherever you're working, start taking out, let me just say, take out short-term, long-term care right now if you have it. If you don't have it, take it out. If you do have it, reevaluate yearly to see if your company is having any changes or whatever. Look at other resources, which I'm looking into for myself. But it could cost anywhere from $10 to $15 an hour for caregiving. I started
somebody 24 hours. It's
right.
Like,
so in the beginning, you don't need 24 hours. It's a progressive illness. Sometimes it's very rapid. For my mom, it was over a period of like 3 years. And I think that has a lot to do with the love and the care that you give a person. But yes, it could. At one time, my bill was $1,000. When I remember, I was, oh God, I was in tears because my mom was on Social Security, so she only had a monthly check. I'm widowed as well. Have a son. I had a home, so there's a lot of expenses.
Yeah.
A lot of expensive. So it can become very expensive. And you really almost need to say, okay, everybody needs to chip in $100 a month.
But
to
how
the
would
pot.
that conversation go if you have other siblings and you're taking care of that parent and you are financially tapped? How do you have that conversation with other family members? Like, look, y'all need to chip in. You know?
What I did, I called and I talked and I said, hey, I need support to help with mom with her care, because her check and my additional bills that I have to still provide for her at the home is not enough.
Because even though she was getting a check, she was diabetic. You talk about you got to have insulin.
Right.
Her depends and doctor's appointments and
doctor's appointments.
Her food, all of that is not included.
She had to have 4 meals a day because when you're diabetic, you have a snack. And another thing with dementia, oftentimes the patient doesn't realize that they just ate an hour ago.
Yeah.
So mom's favorite thing, have I eaten yet? Is it time for me to eat? And I'll say, Mom, we just fed you. You had a wonderful meal. And she said, I did. So, and you have to have patience.
Yeah.
Not all the time. Sometimes I was so exhausted. I was so tired. I would say, Mom, please lay down. Please go to sleep. And I was like, God, help me, help me. So it's a lot of times. I'm surprised I still have my hair because it's gray. But yes,
wisdom highlights.
Yes, these grays mean wisdom. But yes, it's just very expensive.
Because even if nursing homes, those are expensive as well.
Do you want me to talk about that?
Yes. Educate the viewers on the nursing homes.
Okay, let me tell you. Now every state is different. But I guarantee you, if your loved one, it's a difference between Medicare and Medicaid, first of all. I had to learn that the hard way.
I don't even know that.
Okay. So when you turn 65, everybody, gets this little red, white, and blue card in the mail from the federal government, right? And it has the person's name and number. Part A and Part B. You can receive Part A at a certain age, Part B at a certain age, and one is supposed to cover like doctor's appointments. The second one, Part B, is maybe hospitalizations. I'm not sure because I can't remember all the details right now, but it's in my book. And so anyway, you can get Part A and Part B. Things change. The government, they make changes, and depending on who is in office, things could change drastically. But we're going on what I knew when I actually cared for my mom. So you have Medicare. Then there's Medicaid. Medicaid is like if your income is probably less than $20,000 or something like that, you can get Medicaid. It may be somewhere between 20 and 25. I'm not sure, but it's very low. You barely making any money. It's probably under, I'm sure it's under 20,000, maybe 15. You could actually qualify for Medicaid. You can have people on Medicaid that never worked a day in their life.
Wow.
That's what really hurts the most. And then you have people that might be a homeowner. Now, this is what's very important, audience.
Yeah, because
Wanda
your mother was a homeowner.
My mom was a homeowner. So you have to be very careful if you own a home. If your parents or your loved ones own a home, make sure that is put in the child, one of the children's name, or all of them, however the parents want to do it, because it's a safe haven for at that time in your life when you may not can speak for yourself. And in the book, I think I mentioned be a voice for the voiceless, because
yes.
But that was my situation.
You had to be a voice.
So be careful, because nursing homes are thousands of dollars per day. Thousands per day. After 28 or 29 days on Medicare, the bill has to go over to Medicaid, and they start to look at your assets.
Oh, so that's where the homeowner situation.
Right.
Wow.
Right. And think about it. If you have a house and maybe it's worth, I don't know, $150,000, and let's say you turn that over to, you turn it over to the nursing home, you give that person's check. At that time, my mom's check was maybe a little over $1,000 a month. And what they do is they incorporate all of that in the care that person's going to need daily, right? Wow. But know this, regardless of what you turn over to them, suppose that loved one stays in there for 3 years. They could consume not only their check, but that house too.
Oh, no.
What happens if, this is a scenario, may or may not happen, but what if the person lives in there 4 years or 3 years and it consumes all of the funds? Then what do you think happens? Whoever's the executor of that loved one, that could possibly fall back on them. Because that's more money owed, especially if they're still in there.
Wow.
Then what happens? So it's a lot of legal stuff. You need to just pay attention to what are the possibilities. If you listen to any elders who are very wise, they would tell you keep your property as long as you can.
Yes.
Keep your loved one home as long as you can. So that's just my situation. I chose not to do that for some of that reason, because how long it took my parents to actually become homeowners.
Yeah, you don't want to give that up.
Right.
That generation, I like your mother.
They lived in their house until it's paid for. They're not like us.
Yeah, we may stay in the house 5 years, 6 years, and then we leave.
Right.
But that particular generation, most of them, they didn't have federal government jobs. Like,
right.
For the viewers who don't, Dena's mother and my grandmother were sisters. So they grew up picking crabs. So
Mom had multiple entrepreneur. Mom was an entrepreneur before the word entrepreneur for I'm going to say the black family knew about it. I mean, there were a lot of entrepreneurs, but back then in the 50s and 60s, it was not called that. It was called, you business owners and things like that. But the key term is entrepreneur. Mom did hair. She did hair in the home. We had a little country store in the house.
In the bar. They owned their own bar.
And then, so we had a lot going on in the family that generated income, that generated the title of entrepreneurship. And, but all that I can truly say is our family knew about having something to name as your own.
Yes.
And
owning a home was very important.
It was very important.
I grew up
because we couldn't even have. It stems back from way before us, before them not having the opportunity to even buy a home because of your color.
Yes.
But thank God for Jesus.
Because coming up, my parents, when they built their home on land, it's like a lot of these things, people don't even look at buying land. My dad, he had land where he built his home. So in my mind, coming, through middle school and high school, I can't wait to buy my home. That was just there was no other thinking.
Right.
Home ownership was the only thing that I ever saw.
Right. And it's important. It's very important. It's like, if you think about monopoly, whoever owns the most property.
Yeah.
I mean, this is an analogy. Do you think about a monopoly? We all play monopoly. If whoever owns the most homes wins the game.
Yes.
Real estate is important. So try your best to keep your home as long as you can, your loved one's home, your home. Do what you have to do. But it's all about, really, this book is telling you, it's transparent about the caregiving, but the ultimate reflection is telling you the do's and don'ts, some things I did right, some things I did wrong. I was never perfect. None of us are
You
perfect.
didn't have any pamphlets, like I said in the beginning.
Even if
didn't
you
have,
do.
every person
Yeah.
is different. Dementia affects people in different ways.
It does.
And you were doing the best that you knew how.
I did the best that I knew how. And I called on God so many times to help me to make the right decisions.
Yeah.
And I did a lot of research. I can just tell you this, the hospitals, the nursing home, the rehabilitation centers did not want to see me come through because they know I was coming to
You was going to
handle
make sure
business.
that they did their job correct.
Handle business, yes.
And because you had to provide a safe haven for your mom. And I want to play on the word safe because we're getting ready to go to a commercial break.
Okay.
And the song that you're going to hear is called Safe in His Arms. And I believe that's where our loved ones are, safe in the arms of God. So we're going to a commercial. Don't go anywhere. When we come back, we're going to have more with Dena Newman on her newest book, We Cared for Each Other.
Because the Lord is my shepherd, I have everything I need. He lets me rest in the meadow's grass, and then He leads me beside the quiet stream. He restores my failing hand, yes, and He helps me to do what honors Him the most. That's why I'm safe. That's why I'm safe. That's why I'm safe. Safe. When the storms of life are raging and the billows they roll, oh, they begin to roll, and I'm glad He shall hide me. I'm so glad, hide me. When the storms of life are raging and I can't find nowhere to go, God holds me, God keeps me safe. Say I'm so glad, Thank you, Lord. Safe in His arms, in His loving arms. Safe in His arms.
Welcome back to the Wanda's Warriors Show. I hope you enjoyed that song. It's called Safe in His Arms, and it has different versions, but that version is by the artist called Avery Sunshine. I liked her version. So welcome back, and I have my special guest, which is Miss Dena Newman, and we're talking about her newest book, We Cared for Each Other. And so I hope that this has been informative and educational for you. It's something that we all need to be aware of. I mean, it's educating me as well, as I have parents, who are in their 70s. And so, Dena, in your book, you mentioned a term called Sundown Syndrome.
Yes.
Can you explain to the viewers what that is?
Okay, it's not a myth. This is when you're going, when your loved one is going through dementia. What happens is, at some point in the evening, they want all the windows closed, all the lights turned on. Something about the darkness affects how their emotional behaviors. And it gets expensive because you have to have these lights on. My mom loved to have her night light.
Oh.
In the room, in the hall, in all these places, and especially when we didn't know about the Parkinson yet, when she was falling, so I had to keep the bathroom light on. At one point, my mom was able to actually go to the bathroom, and at one point, she had a bedside potty. But the sundown is real. It happens every day, and it got worse and worse and worse. With her being afraid of the dark. And I believe when you're on these different types of medication, it does cause hallucinations. And so you definitely have to monitor the medications. And that was another, we haven't even talked about that.
Side
effects. Effects.
Because you have your own medication for one thing, and then the side effect can be something else. So how many medications per day was she on?
She had something for the for the dementia, she refused to take anything for the dementia. And what that would have done is probably made her sleep more. And I wasn't really supportive of that. Mostly at night would have been helpful because she was waking up probably every 4 hours, 5 hours.
Like
she
a
could
baby.
never,
they revert
right?
She
could never sleep a full night once everything started to progress. Once she was diagnosed with dementia, I never forget the doctor called me on the day that I was leaving to fly out for my birthday. I think this is 2012, and he said, yes, your mom has dementia. He didn't tell me like the list of things. He just said she had it. Spend as much time with her as you can. This was in 2012, but my mom lived to 2015. So, the sundown is real. Even before medications were prescribed, if anyone can remember Uncle Joe or Aunt Susie 20 years ago, there weren't any medications really prescribed for that. And they had sundown. So it has to do with the progression, I believe, of dementia, Alzheimer's, or whatever diagnosis you have. And I think it affects part of the mind, and the memory and things like that. And nighttime, and when you think about darkness, has a more of a scary tone than daytime. So when you really rationalize it, you can kind of understand. When we were kids, we didn't like to be in the dark. Leave the light on. Remember?
The hallway light.
Or somebody's in the closet.
Light.
So it's the same scenario, but now once you become an elder, eventually you can revert back to a child.
And that has to be hard on a caregiver. And in your book, you say you and your sister went to a caregivers conference, and you learned that 44% of caregivers die before their loved ones. And that is a scary statistic because that isn't far from 50%.
Exactly.
Do you think it's because that they're overwhelmed with taking care of that person that's stressed?
They're hurting, it's stressful, and you don't have the support. that you really need.
Wow.
You don't have to support. It should be all members who are willing and able to help.
Yeah.
Help.
And you were transparent in your book about the lack of help from your family members. Did you have a conversation with them that you was going to include that in your book?
No. This book is about, the book was myself, my mom, relationship, and more importantly, my relationship with God is all through the book. If anyone writes a book, if anyone has a story, they have the opportunity to tell their truth as it affected them. My mom lived with me
for 3-4 years.
More than the years that she was ill, but she lived with me a 10-year span.
Now, for her having Parkinson's, did you have to go in and make your rooms handicap accessible?
Well,
that can be expensive.
a couple of times when we were trying to figure out what was going on with her falling and different things, a couple of times she had to go into the hospital. She had been through several major things. She had I think it was gallbladder or something, surgeries.
Breast cancer.
She had breast cancer survivor. All during that period, Mom lived with me. There was times where, of course, she'd go and stay weekends with family members. At one point, when she got better with breast cancer, she went home for a year. But then I had to go back and get her and bring her back because her diabetes, her numbers were all...
She wasn't monitored.
She wasn't monitored. They were all out of order. She would forget sometimes. It's a lot of things. They don't... At that point, you stop wanting to clean up. You... where you're living, and take care of yourself, your physical self, Bathing. If you forget to bathe, that's a problem, especially if you're diabetic. We all, not only going through this whole dementia, Parkinson, diabetic issue. She was high blood pressure. She also had cholesterol pills that she was taking. At one point, we had to go for her, I forgot what that was called, blood thinners. Like, she had to take some type of pill. Okay. She had a good heart. Good heart. No problems with her heart ever. But it was a lot of podiatrist appointments, eye care appointments. There was a lot of appointments.
So by her being, she went home for a year, how does that conversation go? Like, look, Mom, you can't stay in your house by yourself. You're coming to live with me. For her to leave a place where that's all she knew.
It was hard. She cried. She owned, not only did we have a home in St. Mary's County, she also my mom had this fetish with trailers.
Yeah.
So, I know, right? I think she really wanted to. Mom liked to do a little real estate. She didn't call it that, but I feel like she wanted to own properties and things like that where she could house people. So she had a really sweet spirit about taking care of people.
Oh yes.
And cooking, of course. So just so much. It's
a lot when it comes to caregiving. And during the last stages, I saw, I was living in Atlanta, and my grandmother went to the hospital on February 14th, 2016, and she passed March the 17th, 2016. And just in that month, it was downhill. It was how did all of this happen? And towards the end, they start talking about going to see someone else, that they has already transitioned. So your mom did that as well. How did you feel hearing that?
Well, and the first time you hear it, you just, think, okay, the first time she told me, she mentioned something about seeing someone was my dad, her husband, her first husband. Mom was married twice. Her first husband. And I was in a grocery store. Mom was in the car. And when I got back to the car, I noticed she was looking funny. I was like, did someone say something to you? And she said, no. I said, Mom, you okay? And she was like, yes, I'm fine. And I said, well, you look like you were thinking about something. She said, I was talking to your dad. So I was like,
wait a minute.
Okay. I was like, okay. I was okay. You know, so that time I was like, okay, I just went with it, you know. And, but the whole time, the back of my mind, I was like, okay, all right, this is another sign. So when I would feel these things, that's when I would go home and I would write it out. And the second time was closer to the end of her life, probably like the year before she passed, maybe 6 months before she passed. And she was sleeping in my bed that night. I can't recall, was it when she finished the rehab, I believe, and we didn't have her bed because it was at another place. And she had to sleep in my bed. And she kept getting up, and I was like, Mom, what are you doing? What are you doing? Lay back down, lay back down. You need to go to the bathroom. What is it? So at that time, we had the bedside potty. So she said, get up. She said, the boys are here. The boys are here. And I was like, Mom, there's nobody in this room but you and I, sweetie. And she said, get up. No, your dad is here. Well, that woke me up.
Yeah, it was like, wait a minute.
Okay, wait a minute now. Wait a minute.
Transitioned.
You know,
Yeah.
my brother's a transition. Now you're talking about dad again. So that really made me sit up in the bed. Because remember, I'm continuing to watch her get up out of the bed, and I'm having to control her to, Mom, lay back down. You know, what's wrong? And try to talk to her. So she told me that they were there. They were there to come to get her. And so, you know, it automatically make you feel like, oh, my God, is this time?
Yeah.
So then she was like, they want you to cut on the TV. So I go through these processes.
Did you cut on the TV? Everything.
I cut on the TV, and so I'm looking at her. She had this trance look, but she was awake. But it was like a spiritual moment. So she wanted something to eat. I said, you're going to be up. You cannot get up, Mom. So I rushed downstairs, and then I said, oh, my God. God had told her to send me downstairs. And when I come back, she's going to be gone. So
Yeah.
I run back upstairs with whatever I bought, the fruit cocktail or something in the little fruit cup. And I look around the corner because my heart is beating because I was like, oh, my God, they wanted me out of the room. I peep around the corner to my room.
I would be scared.
And I
going
said,
there.
Mom, and she looked at me and she was like, yeah. I said, okay, I bought you something. So I said, can we cut the TV off now? And she was like, they're still here. They still want to watch the TV. And I was like, who? So at this time, I'm asking her questions. And she's telling me, and she's actually saying, you know, your brother, my brother Charles and my brother Zeke is there, and my dad is there. My dad said I'm doing such a good job. By that time, tears coming down.
Yeah, because they've all transitioned, and you're like,
and I'm like,
going on?
this is something. And she says they're here to take me, and I let her know that I'm okay if she wanted to go. I was crying, but I was okay. And then she said, I want you. At that point, she realized that she wanted to take me with her, and I said, Mom, I can't go. And she said, why you can't? And I said, I had to be here for Rashad. She said, well, both of y'all can go. And I said, no, God still have work for us here. So, yeah, it sounds humorous, but it was the most saddest thing that I've ever experienced in my life. I felt like God just gave me one of his wonders, something that we've been, a lot of times you pray and pray, and you never see a sign. You never know, God is real because you see the trees, you see the day, you see the night, you see all these things that let you know that God is real. But that moment was a moment that I knew, God, thank you for showing me your wonders, because you gave me that wonderful, sad but not sad moment to identify with everything that I had learned about the power of God. So anyway, based on that, it wasn't too much longer, and there were other signs that he prepared me
Did she
for the day.
talk about, because I know my grandmother, when she was in the hospital for that month, towards the end, she just kept saying, I'm going home. And there was like, you can't go back to your home, so I'm not talking about that home. So did your mother talk like that? Like they were ready to go to heaven?
I felt like Mom was ready, but she didn't want to leave me.
Yeah. She wanted to make sure that you were okay.
She wanted to make sure that I was okay and Rashad was okay.
Yeah.
And she one day, I remember prior to, I said, Mom, I'm not ready to go, for you to go. She said, we all got to go someday.
We do.
And she was a very spiritual woman. I think one of the pastors named her. She was filled with the Holy Ghost. She was Methodist. She had been Catholic, grew up Catholic and Pentecostal. She had it all up in there, She was,
Yeah, because I remember when we was, we grew up in the Methodist church, and then at that time, the different terminologies. I remember when Aunt Mur we was like, oh, Aunt Mur got happy today at church.
Yeah, we called it happy.
We called it happy, but now they call it shouting. And it was like, Aunt Mur sure they get happy today.
Right, you could feel it, you could see it coming over her like a transformation.
Yeah.
So yes,
and
Mom.
She was rooted and grounded.
Rooted and grounded in the Word.
And so how do you prepare yourself, seeing someone that you love and you're caring for, knowing that you may come home one day and they've transitioned, or they may even transition with you in the room?
Yeah, well, Mom pretty much did transition with me in the room. Prior to maybe like a week before she actually transitioned, you have your doctors coming in, your nurses. At that time, when she actually was had finished, seeing all her doctors, actually they released her. Once the doctor released you, and there's nothing else for them to do, all the tests that's been done. Mom wasn't in any pain, and I'm thankful to God for that. I prayed all the time that, God, when you call her home, please don't let her suffer, because she's been through enough. And so when each doctor released her, it was hard, but it was definitely just a realization that it's coming. It's coming. And, and I share that with the family, when she actually became a patient of hospice, that period, you know what's gonna happen. And not always when you're in hospice doesn't mean that you're going to pass away in a day or months. These people have lived in hospice care for a year. That's true. And went back home and then had to come back. So it just varies. Because we don't have control over life and death, right?
We don't.
So Mom lived in hospice care at my house. She was not in the facility. She was actually at home. And we had a hospital bed in the family room. And that's another thing. I remember I said, oh, my God, I didn't want to do all that to the house.
Like, your whole life was being changed.
She was upstairs. Being a caregiver. Right. We had the hospital bed. She was upstairs. And all of that stuff is expensive, but Medicare will pay for most of those items. You might have to put some money up, I think, for the bed. I had to put up some money. We had everything that we needed for Mom. I had like a little hospital right at the house. At hospice care, once they come in, they take the burden of you not having to pay for depends any longer.
That's a relief.
You no longer have to pay for any medication, any prescriptions. You would have to continue with, whatever foods that person need. And with the Parkinson, Mom had got to a point where her swallowing was very difficult and the choking. We had to add a thickener in her liquids and in her food
To coat it.
to help
go
to
down.
coat
Okay.
for swallowing. She didn't like the taste, but and I remember like that week before, I didn't put anything in that food. We wanted to eat something good because I knew her days were numbered.
Yeah.
Didn't know what day, but I knew it was coming. And we ate good that day. And she didn't do too much choking either. And that's the day she pretty much let me know that she said, Dena, I don't have too much longer here.
They know.
And she wanted me to prepare. And my family probably thought, what's going on with her? She's already preparing for mom to die. And, that's God. That's in God saying, well, God speaks to you if you hear him.
Yeah, they know.
Okay.
Yeah, you have to know the voice of God.
You have to know the voice of God. And mom knew. And dementia, she would go in and out of it. And mostly in, but there were times where she was herself. That it was my mom. I knew the difference of when it was my mom and when she, had dementia. Even with dementia, that's your mom, but she might be repeating things, or because of Parkinson, mom was not talking. You would have to talk to her to make her talk. Okay. And in the book, did you hear about all the singing we did?
The sing. I love that she could always sing.
Oh my God!
This is just. It's like the time is almost up.
I know.
I hope that the viewers. I hope that you all have been educated, and
right.
And just learned. I've learned a lot just reading the book and just listening to Dena. So Dena, for someone that's watching, how can they get a copy of your book, and how can they reach you on social media?
Okay. My book is on Amazon. The first chapter is there. The full version, we're doing some tweaking to the full version, but you should be able to, it's there, but you will be able to purchase in a couple more days. I will be making an announcement. My social media, Facebook is Dena Newman. I also have Instagram, Dena.Newman.14. You can find me. My email address is Newman, NEWMANDENA 44 at yahoo.com. I'm in the process of probably preparing a website. DNicole.com will be my domain name for my website. And I just thank Wanda Warrior here, because she is a warrior. She's been through a lot, but she's overcome so many obstacles, and I just love her. Keep watching her and sponsor her, because this is a very excellent program to be a part of. And I thank you so much.
Thank you, and I'm honored to be the first person you interviewed
with
on your book.
Yes, my first interview.
So I'm just honored, and I hope that everyone, will share this video on your page. The YouTube link will be up by Sunday. So for those who aren't on social media, and I hope that you have learned a lot, just as I have learned a lot. To learn more about who's going to be on my shows and anything that I'm doing, any networking, any speaking engagements, I have a lot coming out in 2020. I have another conference coming out in 2020. So go to my website, wandabriscoe.org, and then join the mailing list, and you will get to see everything that I'm doing. I send out a weekly newsletter. And so I always end the show with the food for thought. And so I wanted to end it for us to dream bigger. Mm-hmm. As we're going into the last month or so of the year, a lot of things that you may have put on the shelf at the beginning of the year, you need to take those things up off the shelf and complete them. So today's word is by Joel and Victoria Osteen, and the scripture is Philippians 4:13. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. That's a very popular scripture. And the topic is go further, dream bigger. And it says, today I want to remind you of what God says about you. No matter what's happening in your life, remember that you are not limited by your resources, your family, or your background. The Almighty God has anointed, equipped, and empowered you. He has given you creativity, ideas, inventions, skills, and talents. Don't you dare settle for a mediocre life. Today, I call forth the seedness of greatness inside of you. Today, I call forth the seeds of greatness inside of you. And you need to declare that over yourself. Today, I declare that your best days are ahead, that you are blessed with success, with supernatural strength, with promotion, and with divine protection. I declare that you can do all things through Christ. I declare that before anyone could put a curse on you, God put a blessing on you. And no matter what they've said about you, no matter what they've tried to make you feel, the blessing always overrides the curse. Walk and live in that blessing by following his commands and staying fully committed to him in everything that you do.
Amen.
Thank you again for tuning in. I will see you all on next week, next Friday. And remember, my motto is to live out loud. Thank you, and see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.